So I'm gonna make a series about like some of the toxic things that my mom has done and just like crazy things in general. So me and my mom have never really had that like very close bond. She likes to say we have, but we don't. So my mom never really liked my grandma, which is my dad's mom. So a couple years ago, like when I was probably 12, I was spending the night with my grandma, or I spent the weekend over there. Well, I wanted to spend the weekend. So my mom called me Saturday evening after I had like a really fun day with my grandma. And she immediately was like, I'm gonna go pick you up right now. So I was just like, what? Like, you said I could spend the weekend. And she's like, no, I didn't. Da da da. So she picks me up and she's with one of her friends. And I didn't really like her because that was the friend she would always party with. And she would leave me at this random girl's house. And I was like her kids. And they're way older than me. And I didn't really feel comfortable with them. And she started talking to me. And to be honest, I was giving her attitude because I was mad. So then she started yelling at me. She's like, every time I come from your grandma's, you always have this attitude. Like, you're not going back there again. So I was like, no, like, I was just excited to spend the weekend with them. And then you just, like, called me getting mad saying that you're going to pick me up out of nowhere. And we got in a really bad argument. And normally, if I'm around other people, like, I'm a really shy person. So, like, I would not, like, talk back ever. I didn't really talk back to my mom in the first place, but especially in public, I wouldn't like say anything. I would just let my mom do whatever she wanted to do. And I literally started having a panic attack in this girl's car because my mom's friend was the one that was driving. And I remember like yelling, I was like, Mom, like I want to get out. I want to get out of this car. And my mom was like telling her friend like, oh my God, like she's so crazy. Like, this is what I mean. Like, it's ridiculous. And I know, again, this wasn't okay, but I tried opening the car, like, at a stop sign because I literally could not, like, I couldn't breathe. So then my mom's friend, like, locked her car, like, obviously, because So at this point, I'm, like, full on, like, having a panic attack, crying, like, boogers everywhere. We're still yelling at each other. Okay, now I remember, like, what made me so mad. I think it's because I overheard them talking and them saying they're gonna go out. And that just made me mad because, like, really, like, you picked me up because for no reason, just so you can go out and leave me at this girl's house. And then my mom ended up being like, you know what, girl, just drop me off home. Like, she's acting, like, horrible. So we get to the house, and this is where everything gets super crazy. Like, I've never, like, had this kind of experience with my mom. So for whatever reason, I don't know why we left, but we left and we started driving. And while we were driving, we continued arguing. And then I think she tried to take my phone because she thought I was recording her, which I wasn't. So she's driving, and she swerves the car whenever she pulls it. And I'm like, Mom, like, what are you doing? Like, we almost got in a car accident. More stuff happened, but that's going to take too long. So I get home and I go to the room, I took a shower, I cooled off, and I told her, I was like, Mom, like, I want to go with Dad. My parents weren't together at the time. She told me no. So I decided to look for my phone so I can contact my dad to pick me up. So I ended up, like, finding it, and I thought she didn't notice, and I remember I got it, and I started walking to the restroom so I could pretend to use the restroom while I texted my dad. But I'm pretty sure she noticed, because then she came to the restroom, and I was sitting on the toilet. And then she was like, what are you doing? And I was like using the restroom. And then she saw that I had my phone and she went in there and she literally locked the door and turned off the light. So I was like, what are you doing? And she just started laughing. So to be honest, I got scared. So I got up and I tried to go out of the restroom and she wouldn't let me, like she was shoving me. And somehow I got out and there's a hallway. So I was like running towards the room, but I had to go through the hallway to do that. And she like literally like pushed me against the hallway wall. And then once like after that, like I kept running and I went into the master bedroom and I had the phone in my hand still. And then I think I was like trying to go on the bed, but she like literally attacked me. She went on me, her full body, and she was just laying on me for like a good 3 minutes, and like I couldn't breathe. And through that, she like scratched my face, and she ended up getting the phone and she left. And I was crying. So I remember going to the mirror and I saw that there was like blood on my face. And my mom has gone physical with me, but she's never to the point where I saw blood on myself. So she was in the garage and I went up to her and I was like, "You look what you did to me." Like I was crying. So guess what she told me? She was like, you did that to yourself. You scratched yourself, Serenity. Why are you lying? And I was like, what? Like, why would I scratch myself? Like, she was, now that I know what the word gaslight is, she was gaslighting the heck out of me. So then she made us leave again, and I didn't want to leave, but I had to go. So we started just driving and driving and driving. I don't think she knew where we were going, but at one point I convinced her to let me call Dad, and he said, okay, I'll go pick you up, and we set a place where we're going to meet up. But she changed her mind, and we never went there. And we drove by my dad's house for some reason, and we drove and drove more. And then she parked somewhere at night, and it was raining, and we just slept in the car all night. So like I said, we slept in the car, and when we woke up, she continued to drive. We went to a store, and then she had picked up this like makeup. It was like a powder foundation. We got to my cousin's house, and she told me to put on the foundation on my cut. Oh, I forgot to mention that my mom never like communicated with my dad saying that we weren't going to meet up with him anymore. She just decided not to anymore. So this cousin is like way older than me. She was probably like 40 at the time, and I'm like 12. And she already has her own kid. We spent the night there. When I woke up, my mom was gone. I didn't know why, but I was so itchy when I woke up. My body was just like reacting horrible, and I started getting like these little bumps all over me, and they're filling up with like fluid, and it was so disgusting. So it's Monday. I should be in school, right? So when my mom got back from wherever she was, she started saying like, oh, you should start doing online school. Like, school isn't even that good. Like, it's not beneficial. And I was just like, yeah, like, okay. So the next day in the morning, she was gone again, and she came back, with papers saying that I was withdrawn from school. And I was like kind of freaking out, because like I didn't know she was actually gonna do that. Because she always just like says things, and she never goes through with things. A couple days later, an aunt had came by, and she looked in the room, and she looked at me because I was with my cousin's kid, because she was around my age. And then she saw me in the room, and she's like, oh, are you okay? Like, how are you, Serena? And I was like, I'm fine. And then all of a sudden, my mom was like, come on, Serena, let's go. And it was an apartment, so there were stairs on the right side and on the left side. So her apartment was kind of in the middle. So we went to the left side, and we started running down the stairs. And it was like nighttime already. I just got back home. I had to leave. So we went to the Walmart, and from there we went to another cousin's house. And at this point, I had all those bumps all over me, like I said in the last video. So we were there for like 5 days, and I was like, Mom, what are we doing? Like, I wasn't going to school, by the way, still. And she took out her battery out of her phone. She had an Android at the time. So she took out the battery from her phone, so no one could even call her. Like, it would go straight to voicemail because she had her battery out. And I remember telling my mom, like, what are we doing? Like, I want to go home. And my mom wasn't even going to work anymore. So I was like, what is going on?
In high school, I had no self-respect. Please be mindful that this is from like almost 7 years ago. Like, I promise you I'm a different person now. I keep talking about like how the fact of I was begging for love from anyone and anything that I could get. And when I mean anything or anyone that I can get, that means anyone. I sadly was the girl that would talk to other girls' boyfriends. And if I get emotional during this, please forgive me, just because this is something that I am very devastated of myself. I lost so many friends during this stage of my life, and if I can go back and change everything, I would. Because I wanted so much love and attention that any boy that even messaged me, I gave my attention to. Any boy that was in a relationship, it didn't even matter that they're in a relationship, because they gave me the attention that I craved and I needed to live. And now that I'm older and I've been in relationships, I would be devastated if someone did that to me. And this affected me in so many ways. When I tell you I was hated in high school for a little bit, I really was. And not by the whole school, by my friend groups. You get it, I craved love, I craved attention, but I'm just telling you guys this because I want my girls to know self-respect is such a big thing. Once I was in relationships, that's when I was like, Theory, what the living fuck did you do? Like, why would you do such a hurtful thing? And I would not wish that on any girl, and I would not wish that on myself. So why would you sit there and talk to other people's boyfriends? That's why we gotta learn some self-respect, okay? I have self-respect now, just so you know. If this person is in a relationship, you stay the frick out of their DMs, and let me tell you why. There is plenty of fish in this motherfucking sea. Do not sit there and go after another girl's man. The man has let you in their home, but that does not mean go sit on their motherfucking couch. Self-worth is something that you need to practice on your own. You need to understand that you're that bitch, but you're not that bitch to go and sit there and take another girl's man. I 100% regret my decisions that I made in high school, but that does not define the person I am today. I'm finding out more and more about myself that I really lacked self-love and I really lacked love. And that's not on my mother, and that's not on my family that was in my household. I questioned myself daily of why my dad did not want to be in my life. And yes, I know now as an adult why he couldn't be there for me. It's still the little girl in me that's like, why wasn't my dad here? And that resulted in me wanting love from every single person that I could even imagine. But honest to God, my daddy issues and me wanting love does not justify things that I did in high school. So for all my girls that are thinking about it, because you want that love and attention so freaking bad, you better go find it somewhere else, because that man is not the person. That woman is not the person. If I can talk to my 15-year-old, 16-year-old theory self, I would say, bitch, sit your ass down. Due to this nasty ass shit, I lost my best friend. Learn from your mistakes and learn from theory. Love you.
So basically, I already went to regular prom, but my church has a prom every year and they call it MoPro, and I'm going to that too. And like for MoPro, a big thing is like usually you would have a date just because it's like a church dance, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. So it's in a month and I already have my dress, and it's literally like, I probably wouldn't be so mad over this if I didn't have my dress and it wasn't like the prettiest dress I've ever had for a dance, because I love it so much. So the guy that took me to homecoming told me that he wanted to ask me to MoPro too, and we're just friends. But then the girl, or one of my friends, told him like, you already took her to homecoming, like take somebody else. And like, so he decided to ask this other girl who's going in our group, which is perfectly fine. I love that girl so much. But then this guy, I was gonna go, my idea was that I would go with this girl who he asked little brother, who is literally only a year younger than me, and I wasn't gonna go with like as a date, but I just needed someone for pictures. Pictures is what I'm concerned about, because like you're supposed to have someone to take pictures with. But then the guy that was like that I went with to homecoming, his little sister didn't have a date, and he wanted her to go with his date's little brother, who was the one that I was supposed to like go with, like to take pictures and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to date the kid. I literally just want pictures. That's it. I just want pictures. Just a tad bit awkward if everybody else in your group has someone to take pictures with and you're the only one out. But basically this guy ditched me to go with the little sister, because the little sassy boy that I went with to homecoming like went out of his way. His mom called the girls, like his little sister. Oh, this is so hard to explain without like dropping names. So the guy I went with to homecoming, his mom called his date's mom and set it up to where the girl's brother, who I was gonna go with, is going with his little sister. So now they're going together and I don't have a date. And then the way he put it was like, oh, just the age gap is so weird. And I'm like, I don't want to date you. I just need someone to stand there for pictures, and you're taller than me. Like, that's it. And when I tell you I've been busting my butt to find another date, everyone already has dates. Like, everybody already has a date, and it's not like I know every single person going to this dance specifically. So like, how am I supposed to know? And it's not a school dance, so I can't ask people from my school. It's a church dance, and like everybody I'm going with, my whole group has a date. And the guy I went with to homecoming was telling everybody Hallie just shouldn't even go with our group at this point because she doesn't have anyone to go with. And I was like, yeah, that's your fault. And then one of my friends sent me a screenshot because this guy made a group chat for this dance and didn't put me in it. And then one of my friends was like, why is Hallie not in this? And he was like, these are the people with dates so far and she doesn't have anyone. Like, this boy is being so sassy for no reason. Like, you're not the girl. And this kid is just really getting on my last nerve. And I just like can't deal with it anymore. And I don't even want to go, but I want to go just for the dress. I would be fine not going. My dress is so pretty. Anyways, that's all for now.
Tell you the story of how I went from growing up with addicts to graduating from Yale. I was born and raised in rural Appalachian, Ohio, which was and continues to be severely impacted by the opioid epidemic. Like many other people in my community, a lot of my family has developed substance use disorders, including both my parents. My older brother and I lived with my parents when I was a baby, but they got divorced when we were really little. Somehow my dad was granted full custody of us both, but he was in no way fit to care for us both by himself. So my grandparents took us in to live with them. I don't know if they intended for this to happen, but they ended up raising us forever. Growing up, I had to witness and deal with the aftermath of addiction from my parents, my aunts, my uncles, and my community in general. Though my grandparents were stable people, their children, who mostly all had substance use issues, were always around, so I was constantly exposed to traumatic events. Even though my home life was unpredictable, I always found stability in school, and I really excelled there. But like most of Appalachia, the schools were really underfunded, and there was a real lack of opportunity. But I didn't want to fall into the same cycle of addiction and poverty as my parents, so I took advantage of everything I could and was determined to succeed. During my freshman year of high school, I applied for a federally funded program called Upward Bound that primarily serves first-generation low-income students to help them to attend colleges. This was a huge turning point in my life, and I honestly don't know where I'd be if I hadn't participated in this program. Each summer, I spent 6 weeks living at our local college, learning about what I needed to do to apply to college, visiting colleges, and attending classes. At some point, I learned that a lot of schools give out full-ride merit scholarships, and I made it my mission to attend school for free. So I put a lot of effort into studying for the ACT, keeping my grades high, and taking classes at the local college to be competitive for scholarships. But at the start of my senior year, I received a letter in the mail from Yale telling me that it's actually free to attend if your family makes below a certain amount of money. I decided it was worth a shot, so I applied. I applied to Columbia too, since they had the same policy, and I thought it would be cool to live in New York. It is highly abnormal to apply to any Ivy League schools or selective schools in general where I'm from. I don't think anyone else from my school did. The majority of the students who decide to go to college from my school end up attending our local college, which is open enrollment, so it means everyone who applies gets in. I was fully ready to commit to Boston University, where I got a full ride scholarship before Ivy Day, because I fully expected to be rejected. Ultimately, I decided to go to Yale. Yale was really tough, and I honestly wasn't prepared, but I learned a lot, and I grew a lot as a person. I feel incredibly lucky to have had all the opportunities I had while at Yale, and to graduate debt-free. I graduated a little over 2 years ago now, and I currently work in DC. I'm definitely still affected by my childhood, but I'm really proud of my resilience and where I am today.
Story time about one of the weirdest nights out I ever had while getting ready to go out. So this was way back in the day when I was last single, 8 years ago. And I was on a night out with my girlfriends. And this was like on a Croatian party beach that is called Zrče. And we all got ready together and pre-gamed. When we got there, it was like a really, really good night. The music was bouncing, the drinks were flowing. So basically, we are having the time of our lives. And while we were there, across the club, I noticed like a really cute guy. And I'm that kind of person, I never go up to someone. I stare at you until you come to me, okay? So I am staring at this man, and he is staring right back at me. And miraculously, he actually comes over. And miraculously, he is super nice. And we are talking for quite long. And my friends are like, okay, she's on her little side quest, so we're gonna let her be. So as the time goes by, I'm like, clearly, I'm going to marry this man. There is just one weird thing. There's this woman who is like staring at us the whole time. And I'm like, okay, girl, slay. Maybe she's bored or something. But she will not stop staring. And it's okay, I ignore it. And we decide to go to the beach. And this girl decides to come up to us. For lipstick, I'm going to be using Lelo makeup. In case you didn't know, Lelo is a premium pleasure brand and has been in the business for 20 years now. And it's just entering the makeup world as a celebration for their 20th birthday. I'm gonna go with this one today. I love the texture of this lipstick. Goes on so smooth. Lelo's mission is to make us feel confident, and they are succeeding. If you want to try Lelo lipsticks too, there is a link in my bio. I absolutely love this finish. Anyway, back to the story. So the girl says I'm blank. I'm his girlfriend. And I'm over there like, turns out they wanted some, and we're like super shy about it. And I was like, guys, I love this for you. I'm not about this right now. And we had a really good laugh about it. They were super nice. All in all, I can say I will never forget that experience. By the way,
the weirdest thing in the gym, and I don't know if I wanted it or if I despised it, but so I saw this couple. It was definitely like an alpha couple. You could tell that they normally go to like the really nice gyms, but this time they had like this whole, oh, we're in a commercial gym type of attitude. So they come in, they think they run the shit, they walk around, and like they start getting into an argument in the middle of the gym. Mind you, I'm on the Stairmaster, I'm looking around, I'm paying attention to everybody, and they're in the middle of the gym. He's like like 6'3", big, like he has to be like a power lifter or something. He's huge. She's tiny, like she's really, really short. She's got to be like 4'8", but she's also, you know, pretty swole. And they're standing there arguing, and she's like, "You're looking at that girl," bickering in his face, looking straight up at him, like barking like a little chihuahua. This is where it gets weird. So they're getting heated. Employees are running over. They want to check on everybody, make sure everything's okay. Everybody in the gym, kid you not, snap necks, looking straight at them. Could not figure out what the problem was. I heard it from the gut. He was looking at somebody else. So employees are running. They are screaming at each other. And this is, I don't know if this is where I'm like, did I like that, or was that weird? He grabs her by the neck, like that, straight up, grabs her by the neck, shakes her, her hair's flopping everywhere, and then he shoves his hands in her armpits and picks her up like a toddler, carrying her, this 4'8" woman, shaking her in the air like this, like a little toddler, I don't know, like a little doll, right? And then he starts passionately making out with her. Like, I'm talking soft something type of passionate, okay? The rest of us, we don't know what to do. We're standing there like, okay. He drops her. Straight up just drops her on the floor. Doesn't set her down nicely. He drops her. Shut the fuck up. Goes back to his workout, and she's smiling. She's smiling. The rest of us are like, what the fuck was that? It was so cringe, but at the same time not. I don't know what that was, but I had to share because that was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Y'all, the response that I got when I told this story on Thread lets me know that I have to give y'all the full story time. So while I do this latte makeup, let's spill the tea on the worst way I found out I was being cheated on. So back in my younger years, I dated this girl, let's call her Jay. Side note, let this serve as word to the wise. All you women who be talking about y'all gonna switch sides because men are horrible, a stud will finish you off. Now Jay was considerably older than me, like at least 5 years. Jay was in the military, so one of the first times I went to go hang out with Jay, I went to go see her in the barracks. I'm from a small town, y'all. There wasn't a lot to do. So I'm being nosy as one does, and she's showing me her hat collection because she had an extensive hat collection. So we're in her closet. In her closet on the floor is a Victoria's Secret bag, and it's got like powder blue lingerie in it. And so I'm like, oh, who is that for? Like, we were newly talking, so I couldn't be mad. But she explains to me that it was for a girl that she used to talk to, but they wound up falling out. Cool, whatever. Some time passes and we've been dating for a couple months at this point. Now Jay had a way of making me feel like I wasn't grown enough for her, which granted, she was 5 years older than me. In hindsight, I probably should have saw the cheating coming. So she decided to take leave to go home and see her family. Oh, actually, let me backtrack. In the beginning stages of us dating, somebody used to blow her phone up. And I'm not talking about 5 or 10 or even 20 calls. There was one that I counted over 70 calls. And when I would ask her who it was, she'd be like, oh, my crazy ex, she'll stop calling. I should have known better. Cause I'm sorry, ain't nobody blowing up your phone 70 times unless you was supposed to be picking up that phone. So anyway, Jay's leave rolls around and her communication was definitely inconsistent while she was there. But I just kind of chalked it up to,
oh, she's home with her family. Who wants to be on the phone the whole time when they're trying to enjoy their family?
You silly, silly child. Anyway, she gets home the next week. And so of course, when she gets home, I miss her. So we do what grown-ups do when you miss each other. So at one point I have my hands on her shoulders, right? And on her back, I feel like bumpy. Now, mind you, being the detective that I am, I had done some digging to find out some information about this crazy ex, and I knew her name. So anyway, I realized that what I'm feeling is a fresh tattoo. I'm thinking, damn, Shorty went home and got a tattoo and didn't tell me. Oh, you silly, silly girl. I sit up to take a look, and on each side of her shoulders are her ex's initials. And I knew that they had to be her ex's initials because she had her own initials tattooed on the front sides of her shoulders. I don't know why I needed more confirmation. Baby, she opened up that phone and there was a picture of her ex in that same blue lingerie I had saw in that closet the first day we hung out. And to make matters worse, I asked her what the reason was. I don't know why we as women ask that question. And sis told me it was because she was tired of taking care of me, which is crazy to me because I live with my mom. Like, yeah, she was paying for all the dates and stuff, but girl, I was a fresh 18. You were 23. Hyper independence unlocked. So needless to say, we broke up. But still, the audacity to tat your ex's initials on you while we are still together. Baffling.
Y'all, please pay attention to your surroundings and trust your intuition. Yesterday, I was on my way to the store to make a return, and I got to the stoplight and I noticed this car pull up next to me and his window was rolled all the way down. And my windows are tinted, so I didn't think much of it, but I can tell that he's looking over at my car. So I'm like, okay, whatever. The light turns green, we both pull forward, and I pull behind him because I need to turn into the parking lot. We get stopped by another stoplight, and at this point, I'm behind his car, and I can see him looking at his side mirror the entire red light. Like, he just keeps looking in his side mirror. And at this point, I was starting to feel a little bit weird because, yes, my windows are tinted, but when the sun is out, you can still see into my car. So I was like, is he looking at me? The light turns green, we both pull forward. I turn on my signal to turn into the parking lot. He turns on his signal to turn into the parking lot. So then he pulls into the parking lot, I pull into the parking lot. He goes one way, I go another way. So I was like, okay, that was just weird. Like, let me go on about my business. Now there are several stores in this plaza, so I find the store that I need to go to and I park my car, and something just tells me, don't get out the car. Like, don't do it. So I'm just sitting in my car and I wait a couple minutes and I see him pull in front of my car. And I'm like, okay, he slows down a little bit and then he just keeps going. And at this point, I'm starting to feel like really alerted. Like, this is really odd, right? So I wait in my car for another minute or so, and then I see him circle my vehicle again for the second time. And at this point, I'm taking pictures. And in the pictures, you can literally see him looking at my vehicle the entire time he's passing my car. So I wait in my car for another 5 minutes or so, and I don't see him, so I just shake it off and I go into the store. As I'm walking into the store, I look back and I see him literally sitting in his car in the same row, like where my car is parked, and he's just like a couple spaces down. And there are plenty of parking spaces available, so he's just sitting there. So I go into the store and I make my return, and I spend like a good 15-20 minutes just like walking around, just trying to calm myself down. So I leave the store and I'm looking around the parking lot and I don't see his car anymore. So I'm like, okay, phew, like that was weird. As soon as I get near my car, I look over and I see that he's parked in a spot and he's watching me walk to my car. He sees that I see him and he looks at me and he goes like this and starts smiling. So I get in my car and I call my mom, I call my best friend. I'm just trying to figure out what to do because at this point, like, I know he's watching me. So I sit in my car for like 10 minutes and I finally get a hold of my best friend, and this entire time he's still watching me. So I pull off and drive to my nearest police station. So I filed an incident report, and thank God I got pictures of his vehicle, his license, and him. So the moral of the story is to pay attention to your surroundings and trust your intuition, because if something doesn't feel right, most likely it's not.
Am I the asshole for yelling at my younger sister? For some context, I am the middle child of 3 daughters. My older sister 22F, me 15F, and my younger sister 11F. My little sister has been spoiled by my dad and older sister ever since she was born. If she just begs and cries, she'll get exactly what she wants. She doesn't do anything, is overweight, lazy, and a crybaby. About a week ago my birthday came around. I wasn't planning on doing anything that day, but my older sister, I'll call her Jenny, came into my room suggesting we go to the mall. I agreed because she said we could go into my favorite store and maybe get Chinese food. We were planning on going with just us two, but my little sister, I'll call her Isabel, saw us getting ready and wouldn't stop asking us where we were going, and eventually started getting ready herself. I was obviously annoyed as I knew how this trip would go. We ordered an Uber and left. When we got to the mall, we immediately went to one of my favorite stores. Isabel began running around the store looking for stuff to get. I took time looking at everything because I knew Jenny wouldn't get me a lot, but she would get my stuff. After I got a few shirts, which were on clearance, and some jewelry, I went over to my older sister who was waiting by the front. We bought what I wanted, which came out to about $18 with clearance and the discount because she works at a store that partners with this one. When Isabel came over, she showed my sister what she wanted and we went to pay. Her stuff came to around $30 even with my sister's discount. Jenny was angry, but we just left and continued shopping. I am a bit of a gamer, so I suggested we go to GameStop and get a new disc because mine broke somehow. Isabel then whines and says she wants to go into a different store because, in her words, GameStop is for nerds. My older sister for some reason agrees with her, so we go into another store. Isabel starts grabbing things off shelves and begging my sister for them. It was a long process, so I'll skip this part, but I only got a shirt and a pair of shorts from that store and we spent over $50 there. We decided to look around more and I again suggested that we go into GameStop. Jenny agreed at first, but then my younger sister chimed in. Let's go to the Build-A-Bear shop. And grabbed my older sister by the arm. She apparently needed more clothes for hers. My older sister agreed again, only because she has a Build-A-Bear that her boyfriend got her. We spent way too much money in that store and finally left. We were going to go to GameStop finally, but when we got there was a sign saying the guy working there was on a 30-minute break. Great. So we just decided to go to the food court instead. I got Chinese food while my sisters got some kind of sub. After we finished eating I wanted to go back and see if the guy was off break now, but again Isabel complained that it was for nerds again and that we should get ice cream. I'm lactose intolerant so I don't do well with dairy, but Isabel gets ice cream anyways and Jenny and I sit and wait for her to finish it. When she's done I suggest again that we go to GameStop and she starts complaining that she wants to go home. And that her feet hurt. And all that bull. At this point I snapped. I will admit I do have anger issues, but due to my parents forcing me to control them around my sister, I've built up a longer fuse, but this sent me over the edge. I didn't start yelling, but you could tell I was angry. I told her, Isabel, this trip was never about you. It was never for you, so stop complaining. This trip was for my birthday and all you've done is take over. My older sister looked at me, shocked and confused. My little sister just rolled her eyes and slumped in her chair. We never did go to GameStop and just ended up leaving after that and taking the bus home.